There are 21 Machiavellian rules that quietly control human behavior, and once the last 3 finally reveal themselves, nothing in the human face will ever look innocent again. The world becomes a series of predictable movements, each person driven not by what they claim, but by what they cannot hide. Beneath every polite gesture, every smile, every moment of hesitation is a law older than kingdoms and sharper than any blade. Humanity prides itself on reason, on morality, on the fiction that principles guide their choices. Yet every step they take is steered by instinct, fear, hunger, vanity, and an unspoken desperation to protect themselves from the truths they pretend not to know. These rules were not invented by the Florentine strategist. They were uncovered, extracted from the soft underbelly of human nature that society works tirelessly to conceal. Rule 1 emerges the moment the mask slips. People act out of self-interest, even when pretending to be noble. Every act of kindness they offer is threaded with calculation. Every alliance is wrapped in the language of virtue but rooted in advantage. A generous hand is extended to secure reputation, to gain leverage, to remain necessary, or to avoid the discomfort of appearing cold. Loyalty forms not from purity of heart but from the belief that connection benefits them more than detachment. Even sacrifice disguises ambition. For those who give something up almost always expect something greater in return. Acknowledgement, prestige, power, debt. The world is shaped not by altruism but by strategic emotion, and the faces that appear warmest are often guarding the coldest motives. Those who fail to recognize this mistake sentiment for sincerity and become pawns in games they did not know they were playing. Rule 2 rises quietly behind the first. People fear loss more than they desire gain. The mind clings to comfort, routine, and familiarity with a desperation far stronger than any hunger for improvement. This fear turns even the boldest hearts into obedient creatures. It explains why the citizen remains loyal to a leader who weakens him, why the worker tolerates a life that suffocates him, why the timid stay in relationships long after affection has died. Loss feels like death, while gain feels uncertain, and so they shrink themselves into the safety of what is known. This fear makes them predictable. Threaten what they value and they will yield. Offer them something new and they will hesitate. Risk intimidates them more than mediocrity, and authority thrives because most souls prefer being led into stagnation rather than stepping alone into possibility. Rule 3 stands above the others like a shadow cast across a trembling crowd. People follow strength, not goodness. Goodness soothes them, comforts them, gives them something gentle to admire, but strength directs them. A decisive presence anchors their uncertainty, while a gentle one merely blends into their confusion. A single act of firm will commands more obedience than a lifetime of polite speeches. The strong do not need to raise their voice. Their silence becomes a force that shapes the air, while the weak exhaust themselves trying to be heard. A leader who embodies certainty becomes a gravitational field. The unsure orbit around him without ever realizing that their loyalty has been chosen for them. Even the moral man, admired for virtues and praised for his nobility, bends when pressured by the confidence of someone who refuses to bend at all. These truths carve themselves into the world through quiet, merciless examples. A man may spend years praising a companion, speaking softly of loyalty and respect, yet the moment fear enters his chest, the threat of punishment, exclusion, or judgment, that same loyalty evaporates like mist at sunrise. A friend who promises constancy does so while the cost is low. Once loyalty requires sacrifice, it transforms into inconvenience, and inconvenience transforms into withdrawal. The crowd who cheers for the righteous man secretly waits for someone stronger to appear, for the one whose steps do not tremble, whose eyes do not search for approval. Morality wins their applause, strength wins their obedience. And all the while, each person convinces himself that his reactions are noble, when in truth, they are driven by instinct and shaped by the very rules he denies. Human nature is not a gentle landscape, but a battlefield of hidden desires and unspoken fears. Those who fail to understand its architecture find themselves manipulated by those who navigate it effortlessly. Every betrayal feels unexpected only to the one who never learned the patterns. Every disappointment feels shocking only to the one who believed words over behavior. Self-interest governs action, loss governs hesitation, and strength governs loyalty. These forces guide every choice a person makes, even while pretending they are guided by conscience. The strategist sees this clearly, and once seen, it cannot be unseen. To understand human nature is to wield a power more potent than weapons or wealth, for it grants the ability to forecast behavior before it is revealed. And yet, these first three rules are merely the surface of the labyrinth. Behind them lies a deeper machinery, the engine that turns weakness into submission and makes power flow toward those who grasp its essence. For the next three rules reveal not why people behave as they do, but how power moves through them, reshaping decisions, allegiances, and destinies long before they realize they have been moved at all. The map of influence begins there, in the mechanics that separate those who command from those who serve, and the strategist who understands this begins to sense a far darker pattern unfolding beneath the quiet motions of the crowd. Power moves in silence long before anyone notices its shadow, and those who sense it early gain an advantage that others mistake for destiny. Human nature reveals the impulses that drive individuals, but power reveals the forces that shape entire groups, institutions, and nations. It flows not through fairness or virtue, but through pressure, perception, and the cold mathematics of influence. When people whisper about strength, when they surrender before the battle even begins, when they pledge loyalty to a name rather than a principle, they are responding to the invisible weight of power. And to understand the next three rules is to understand the architecture that decides who rises and who obeys without ever realizing it. Rule 4 takes shape the moment ambition awakens within a person. Those who seek power must learn to control perception, because perception is stronger than truth. The world does not follow the most competent, the most moral, or the most deserving. It follows the one who appears inevitable. The human mind is built to simplify, to choose symbols over substance, to interpret authority through confidence rather than accuracy. A figure who radiates certainty becomes a beacon for the uncertain. A leader who displays composure becomes the refuge for the anxious. Control the image and the world will construct the rest for him, filling in the gaps with admiration or fear. A man may hold no real leverage, yet if he convinces others he cannot be challenged, they will defeat themselves before ever confronting him. Power does not begin with facts, it begins with impressions, and impressions become the cage in which others lock themselves willingly. Rule 5 emerges from a darker truth. Power accumulates around those who are willing to do what others avoid. Most people wish to be respected, few are willing to be feared. Most wish to be liked, few accept being disliked. Most crave harmony, few tolerate conflict. Thus, the majority limit themselves long before any rival appears. They give up positions of influence to avoid discomfort. They surrender opportunities because they fear confrontation. They remain silent when their voice could shift an entire room. But the one who can endure tension, who can stand unfazed in the presence of anger or judgment, becomes the gravitational center around which weaker wills revolve. Power rewards the person who does what frightens others, for fear is the most effective gatekeeper separating leaders from followers. Strength is not merely physical force, it is the capacity to remain unshaken when the world tries to push him back into obedience. Rule 6 then reveals itself as the foundation beneath kingdoms and corporations alike. Those who understand the cost of power are the only ones worthy to hold it. Power is not maintained by desire alone. It demands sacrifices that most refuse to make. It demands vigilance when others relax, discipline when others indulge, strategic restraint when ego urges impulsiveness. Those who chase power for validation crumble at the first sign of instability. Those who pursue it for control accept that instability is the natural environment of influence. Entire empires fall because their rulers mistake possession for permanence. Entire leaders lose authority because they seek comfort rather than readiness. True power requires a level of self-control that borders on severity, the ability to deny impulse, sentiment, or distraction when a single misstep could cost everything. And only those who are willing to carry this burden without trembling can keep power from slipping silently into the hands of a rival. These rules can be seen in every corner of society, from the small rooms where timid minds gather, to gossip, to the grand halls where decisions ripple outward into nations. A person who manages perception becomes untouchable, even without proving anything. A person who tolerates conflict becomes the unspoken leader of every circle he enters. A person who understands the cost of power commands a presence that others instinctively respect. And yet, most people wander through life unaware of this structure shaping their fate, believing that outcomes are random, believing that talent alone is enough, believing that intention can overpower instinct. They do not notice how quickly their ambition dissolves the moment pressure appears. They do not see that their fear of loss, judgment, and conflict chains them more effectively than any tyrant ever could. Meanwhile, the strategist moves through the same world with different eyes, recognizing the signals others miss, maneuvering through emotions others drown in, stepping into opportunities others abandon out of hesitation. Power, at its core, is movement, the shifting of influence, the arrangement of forces, the ability to turn possibility into inevitability. And once a person grasps these three rules, the world reveals itself like a map, with every path illuminated. He begins to see why certain individuals rise effortlessly, while others remain trapped in cycles of frustration. He begins to understand why some voices silence entire rooms, why some decisions reshape entire groups, why some figures dominate even without aggression. The laws of power are not abstract theories, they are the unspoken currents governing every human interaction, and those who ignore them surrender their future to those who do not. Yet the nature of power is only half of the machinery, for beneath it lies something far more primal: fear. Not the dramatic fear of danger, but the quiet, creeping fear that governs choices, relationships, obedience, rebellion, betrayal, and loyalty. Fear determines how people respond to strength, how they interpret authority, how they decide whether to resist or submit. And the next three rules reveal how fear shapes minds more effectively than logic, morality, or persuasion ever could, unlocking the mechanisms of manipulation that those in power understand instinctively, and the powerless never even notice until it is too late. Fear governs the human animal more completely than any law, any leader, or any belief. It shapes reactions before thought begins. It dictates allegiances before loyalty forms, and it turns otherwise rational minds into creatures of instinct the moment pressure tightens. The strategist who understands this sees not a chaotic world, but a predictable one. Every hesitation has a trigger, every betrayal has a source, every submission has a threshold, and the next three rules expose how fear becomes the silent architect of obedience, rebellion, manipulation, and control. Rule 7 rises from the core of human behavior. People obey the figure who can trigger their fear more than the one who earns their respect. Respect inspires admiration, but fear enforces action. Admiration is passive, fear is commanding. A respected leader may be loved, praised, spoken of fondly, but the feared figure is the one whose presence prevents disobedience. The mind instinctively avoids consequences, even imagined ones, and gravitates toward the authority that can administer them. Even without violence, the potential for loss, disapproval, exclusion, or judgment becomes a leash stronger than any chain. The strategist who understands this never needs to be cruel, he only needs to make defiance feel dangerous. When a choice carries weight, when hesitation has a cost, when failure risks humiliation, most people surrender without realizing they have surrendered at all. Rule 8 reveals a subtler mechanism. People are easiest to influence when they fear isolation. No punishment terrifies the human mind more than being cast out of the group. Entire societies function because individuals will sacrifice truth, ambition, and even dignity to avoid standing alone. They mimic opinions to blend in. They echo beliefs to remain accepted. They silence their doubts to preserve belonging. This fear makes manipulation effortless. Control the environment and he controls the behavior. Create an atmosphere where disagreement feels risky and conformity becomes instinctive. Frame independence as rebellion, and the group will police itself. Frame silence as safety, and the voices that could challenge authority will wither before they speak. The strategist who understands the fear of isolation does not need to threaten a person directly. He only needs to make the group a place where stepping out of line feels like stepping off a cliff. Rule 9 exposes the dark heart of manipulation. The mind that fears uncertainty can be guided anywhere. People crave clarity more than truth, direction more than freedom, certainty more than accuracy. When ambiguity surrounds them, when the path forward blurs, when choices multiply, fear spreads through their thoughts like fog. In that fog, they search for a figure whose confidence pierces the haze. They follow the one who speaks with certainty even when unsure, who chooses a direction even when the road is unclear, who stands firm even when the ground shakes. The strategist who understands this uses decisiveness as a weapon. He provides answers not because they are correct, but because others cannot tolerate the discomfort of questions. He becomes the anchor in their confusion, the stable voice within their chaos, and in exchange they give him influence cloaked as trust. These rules manifest everywhere, from the smallest interactions to the most expansive power structures. The employee follows the superior, who does not shout, but whose disappointment stings with consequence. The student aligns with the teacher, who tolerates no deviation, while quietly dismissing the one who asks politely for attention. The partner clings to a relationship that has lost warmth because the terror of being alone outweighs the discomfort of staying. The citizen obeys a failing system because uncertainty feels more dangerous than corruption, and entire groups adjust their behavior based on the tone, posture, or silence of a single figure whose confidence offers them temporary relief from the anxiety that churns beneath their choices. The strategist watches these movements with a clarity others lack. He sees the way fear carves pathways through the human mind, how it pushes some forward, pulls others back, and immobilizes the rest. He understands that fear is not merely an emotion, it is a compass. It points directly to a person's weakness, their threshold, their predictable pattern of reaction. The things they defend reveal what they dread. The things they attack reveal what they hide. The things they avoid reveal what controls them. And the strategist who learns to read these signals gains an advantage that feels supernatural to those who do not grasp the mechanics beneath it. Yet the purpose of understanding fear is not cruelty, but precision. Power moves not through chaos, but through calculated pressure. Influence emerges not from aggression, but from understanding the emotional architecture that makes people move. Fear is the blueprint, but it is only one side of the equation. Once fear exposes the heart, betrayal reveals the hand. Once fear narrows the choices, loyalty determines the price. And after fear shapes the mind, alliances reveal their true nature. Because beyond fear lies something even more unstable, more dangerous, more decisive in shaping destinies. The illusions people build around loyalty, devotion, promises, and trust. And the next 3 rules expose why loyalty is never what it seems, why betrayal is never surprising to the strategist, and why those who misunderstand these forces inevitably fall to those who don't. Loyalty is spoken of as if it were a virtue carved from iron, but in truth it is a thread woven from convenience, self-preservation, and shifting incentive. The world romanticizes devotion, celebrates oaths, praises constancy, yet behind every vow is a silent calculation. People stay loyal only as long as loyalty costs them less than betrayal. They remain faithful only while the relationship serves their needs. They defend a leader only while that leader appears stronger than the alternatives. This fragile structure becomes clear the moment pressure is applied, and the next 3 rules reveal why loyalty is the most misunderstood force in human affairs. Rule 10 emerges like a whisper in the strategist's ear. Loyalty is never permanent. It is conditional, transactional, and dependent on advantage. A companion may swear allegiance out of admiration, gratitude, or shared purpose, but all of these sentiments exist only as long as circumstances remain stable. Once danger rises, once power shifts, once opportunity tempts them elsewhere, loyalty dissolves like smoke. Even families fracture under ambition. Even lifelong alliances crumble when the cost of maintaining them grows too heavy. The mistake is believing loyalty is a reflection of character when it is a reflection of circumstance. Change the circumstances and devotion can transform into distance, resentment, or silence overnight. What remains steady is not loyalty but the illusion that it ever was. Rule 11 cuts deeper. Betrayal always comes from those close, because distance cannot wound. Strangers cannot harm with precision. Only familiar hands know where to strike. Betrayal is not a failure of loyalty. It is the fulfillment of self-interest once hidden beneath sentiment. The one who watches closely, who knows the rhythms of another's ambition, who has observed weakness, insecurity, and desire, becomes the most dangerous when incentives shift. People betray not because they are evil, but because their priorities evolve. Their fears sharpen, their opportunities expand. And when betrayal finally arrives, it often appears in the form of calm explanations, gentle reasoning, or expressions of regret. A dagger delivered with an apology cuts just as sharply. The strategist does not resent betrayal, he expects it, for it is the natural consequence of giving someone the access required to harm. Rule 12 completes the triad. The one who controls incentives controls loyalty. People remain devoted to whoever offers the most stability, protection, or opportunity, not to whoever is morally superior. Create an environment where loyalty benefits them, and they will mirror commitment. Create an environment where betrayal costs them, and they will remain steady even in discomfort. Most allegiances are not a matter of affection but economics, emotional economics, political economics, social economics. A leader who understands this shapes loyalty deliberately, not by pleading for it or demanding it, but by structuring consequences so clearly that devotion becomes the safest path. Where loyalty is rewarded, it thrives. Where betrayal is punished, it hesitates. Where incentives are ambiguous, chaos grows. These rules reveal themselves in the quiet moments where human connections fracture. A companion who once defended someone fiercely becomes distant the moment their reputation risks being attached to a sinking name. A colleague who once praised another's competence suddenly aligns with a rival when the winds of authority shift direction. A partner who promised constancy begins withdrawing affection when the future looks uncertain, not because love vanished but because fear overtook it. In every case, the individual believes they acted reasonably, ethically, even regretfully. They see their shift as self-preservation, not treachery. And in their mind, they are right. Behavior rooted in survival always feels justified to the one trying to survive. The strategist watches these movements without bitterness. He understands that loyalty is not a moral foundation but a psychological pattern. He does not grant trust recklessly, nor does he cling to old alliances out of sentiment. He observes what motivates those around him, what threatens them, what comforts them, what they fear losing, and what they crave gaining. He recognizes that loyalty built on emotion crumbles under pressure, while loyalty built on structure endures. To demand unwavering devotion without offering incentives is to expect nature to contradict itself. To trust someone without understanding what binds them is to walk into uncertainty blindfolded. What many call betrayal is often just the moment the illusion ends. The signs were always there: hesitation in tone, new alliances forming quietly, subtle withdrawals of warmth, unspoken comparisons to others, sudden concerns disguised as advice. But most ignore these signs because they cling to the fantasy that loyalty is earned once and never questioned again. The strategist does not cling, he evaluates, he adjusts, he anticipates. He creates environments where betrayal becomes unprofitable and loyalty becomes instinctive. This is not manipulation, it is architecture, the design of human behavior through predictable incentive. And yet, loyalty and betrayal are only half the story. Beneath them lies something colder, something even more decisive: strategy itself. For while loyalty responds to incentive and betrayal responds to opportunity, strategy responds only to timing, and timing is the sharpest weapon in the strategist's arsenal. A misjudged moment can destroy an empire. A well-timed decision can secure power for a lifetime. But timing is not guesswork. It is an art shaped by observation, restraint, and a willingness to move before others see the path. The next 3 rules reveal how timing becomes the decisive force that separates those who react from those who rule, and why almost everyone miscalculates the moment where their fate is decided. Strategy is the silent language through which power speaks. It is not noise, not spectacle, not the desperate movement of someone trying to be noticed. It is the discipline of calculation, the patience of observation, and the precision of acting only when advantage is absolute. Many lose battles not because they are weak, but because they move without timing, strike without preparation, or reveal intentions before control is secure. The next 3 rules expose the architecture of strategy, the patterns that determine who ascends and who is swallowed by forces they never learned to read. Rule 13 emerges softly, like a whisper beneath chaos. A strategist wins by observing longer than others can wait. Most people rush into action, afraid of silence, terrified of being forgotten, compelled to prove themselves at every moment. They mistake movement for progress and noise for influence. Their impatience becomes a weakness that exposes their intentions, their insecurities, their limits. But the strategist understands that the world reveals its secrets to the one who watches without craving attention. Observation becomes intelligence. Silence becomes advantage. Every hesitation from others becomes a map. Every emotional outburst becomes a confession. While others burn themselves out trying to be seen, the strategist gathers information, and information becomes the weapon that requires no force to wield. Rule 14 cuts deeper. A strategist acts only when the moment is ripe, not when desire urges action. Timing is the invisible blade that defeats even the strongest opponent. Attack too early, and strength is wasted. Attack too late, and opportunity dissolves. Most people crumble because they cannot resist the impulse to act the moment they feel anger, fear, or ambition. They reveal their intentions through haste, destroy alliances through impatience, and expose their vulnerabilities through poorly timed decisions. The strategist, in contrast, allows desire to simmer without directing it prematurely. He knows that a delayed move delivered at the precise moment carries more force than 100 impulsive actions. The world does not reward those who move first, but those who move when resistance is weakest. Rule 15 completes the triad with a darker truth. A strategist reveals nothing until the outcome is already secured. Secrecy is not deception, it is protection. A plan exposed too early invites sabotage, envy, interference, or manipulation. People cannot resist meddling in what they do not understand. They criticize what they cannot influence. They attack what threatens their comfort. For this reason, the strategist builds quietly, strengthens privately, and strikes only when concealment is no longer necessary. When the world finally sees the result, the struggle appears effortless, not because it was effortless, but because every difficulty was faced in silence. What seems like sudden success is often the final flash of a process hidden far from the eyes of those who would have sought to undermine it. These rules reveal themselves in every arena of life. Ambitious individuals fall because they broadcast intentions far before they have the leverage to protect them. Leaders collapse because they mistake urgency for timing and rush decisions that require patience. Friends betray themselves because they speak impulsively, giving rivals information that was never asked for. Meanwhile, the strategist moves like a shadow through the same environment, untouched by the chaos that consumes others. He watches patterns before they form, senses instability before it erupts, and chooses his moment with the precision of an executioner who never raises his blade until the target is already within reach. Strategy is not a performance, it is an internal discipline. It requires the ability to remain still when others panic, to remain alert when others relax, and to remain focused when others are distracted by emotion. This discipline creates a form of strength that does not boast, does not chase, does not beg for recognition. It is the strength of inevitability, the kind that draws outcomes toward it, rather than chasing them blindly. Those who possess it rarely need to announce their intentions. Their results speak with a clarity louder than any declaration. Yet even strategy, in all its elegance, is bound by the larger force of influence. Observation reveals patterns, timing determines the moment, and secrecy protects the plan. But influence is the mechanism that turns strategy into reality. Without influence, strategy is theory. With influence, strategy becomes law. Influence is not merely persuasion, nor charm, nor authority. It is the ability to shape another's perception, choices, and reactions without resistance. Those who master influence do not impose their will, they make others believe the will was theirs all along. The next 3 rules expose the core machinery of control, the subtle forces that allow a strategist to move entire groups with a single gesture, a single shift in expression, a single silence at the right moment. These rules reveal why some figures command without aggression, why some voices bend others effortlessly, and why control belongs not to the loudest, but to the one who understands the subconscious architecture guiding human decisions. Influence is the most elusive form of power because it does not announce itself. It does not roar, it does not force, it does not rely on spectacle or intimidation. Influence moves like a shadow cast by an unseen fire, shaping perception before awareness forms, guiding behavior without resistance, bending decisions without the appearance of pressure. The strategist who masters influence no longer competes, he directs. And the next 3 rules reveal why control is rarely seized through force, but through subtlety, precision, and the deep understanding of how minds respond to the smallest cues. Rule 16 rises from the quiet corners of human interaction. The one who controls the frame controls the outcome. A frame is the invisible structure through which a situation is interpreted. It is the context, the tone, the underlying assumption that defines what everything means. Most never realize how easily the frame can be shaped. A calm presence reframes chaos into order. A confident silence reframes conflict into inevitability. A subtle shift in posture reframes dominance without a word. When a strategist sets the frame, others fill it with their own reactions, never noticing they were guided into a predetermined interpretation. The frame decides who leads and who follows, who speaks and who listens, who defends and who judges. Control the frame, and control becomes effortless. Rule 17 reveals a deeper mechanism. The one who creates emotional equilibrium gains power over those who cannot govern their own reactions. Most individuals live at the mercy of internal storms. They explode when touched, withdraw when pressure rises, overreact when fear appears, and crumble when uncertainty grows. Their emotions drag them from stability into impulsive choices that expose their weaknesses. The strategist, however, maintains composure even when storms rise. This emotional equilibrium becomes a force that unsettles those who lack it. In the presence of steadiness, their own turbulence feels more chaotic, more embarrassing, more unmanageable. They begin adjusting their tone, softening their arguments, moderating their expressions, all to match the person who refuses to be swayed. Influence is not gained by arguing, but by becoming the emotional center that others unconsciously orbit. Rule 18 completes the triad. The one who understands desire controls direction. Desire is the most powerful motivator, stronger than fear, stronger than habit, stronger than logic. People chase what promises fulfillment, recognition, status, safety, or belonging. Yet most cannot name what they truly want, and this blindness makes them easily guided. A strategist does not impose desires. He reveals them. He observes what excites, what irritates, what energizes, what scares, what comforts. He learns the unspoken language written in gestures, tone, and silence. Once he understands the desire at someone's core, he can nudge their path subtly, offering small steps that align with their hidden longing. The individual moves willingly, believing the decision was entirely their own. Control becomes invisible because it feels internal. These rules manifest everywhere. A leader who remains composed becomes the unchallenged reference point for an entire group, while others adjust subconsciously to his steadiness. A negotiator who sets the frame determines which options appear logical and which seem unreasonable, guiding the conversation without force. A figure who senses unspoken desire can redirect ambition, soothe conflict, or ignite action with nothing more than a strategic gesture. Meanwhile, those who depend on charisma alone exhaust themselves trying to persuade, argue, convince, or dominate, never realizing that true control emerges not from pressure, but from psychological attunement. The strategist watches these interactions with detachment. He sees how people crumble under the weight of their own emotions, how they overplay their hand, how they posture for attention, how they reveal desperation through insistence. He sees how easily frames collapse when built on insecurity. He sees how desire drives individuals into traps they construct themselves. Influence requires no aggression, no loudness, no dramatic displays. It requires patience, sensitivity, and an almost artistic awareness of how the human mind interprets subtle signals. Influence is mastery over perception, not domination of force. Once these rules are understood, the world appears less like a battlefield and more like a stage. Every expression becomes a clue. Every silence becomes an instrument. Every desire becomes a path. And in this stage, the strategist becomes the quiet conductor, adjusting the tempo with a glance, shifting the dynamic with a pause, redirecting the scene with nothing more than controlled presence. Those around him move, speak, and decide while believing they are acting freely, unaware that the architecture beneath their choices has been shaped long before the moment arrived. Yet influence, powerful as it is, does not guarantee survival. Control does not promise safety. Influence does not prevent downfall. For beyond influence lies the darkest terrain of all, survival itself. It is one thing to guide minds in calm waters. It is another to maintain power when danger rises, betrayal erupts, and the structure built carefully over time faces its greatest test. Survival is where strategy meets brutality, where influence meets resistance, where every rule must be applied under pressure, sharp enough to expose even the smallest flaw. The final 3 rules reveal what happens when the strategist steps into that crucible. Rules forged not through observation but through conflict reversal and the harsh lessons learned when the stakes are absolute. They are the rules that determine who endures and who is erased, who ascends and who is forgotten, who becomes a footnote and who becomes a legend carved into the memory of generations. Survival is the final arena where all previous rules collide. It is the crucible where perception, fear, loyalty, timing, and influence are stripped of elegance and exposed for what they truly are, tools in a brutal contest. When danger rises, when power is threatened, when alliances fracture and every hidden motive awakens, survival becomes the only measure that matters. Those who misunderstand this stage fall swiftly, shocked by the speed at which the world discards them. But those who grasp the final 3 rules rise not by luck, nor by sentiment, but by understanding that survival belongs to the one who refuses to die quietly. Rule 19 cuts through the noise with merciless clarity. The one who adapts faster survives longer. Circumstances shift without warning, and those who rely on habit, routine, or certainty collapse under the weight of change. Most cling to familiarity even as it crumbles. They hold on to outdated strategies, outdated alliances, outdated identities, believing stability will return if they simply wait. But survival does not reward stillness. It rewards metamorphosis. The strategist who adapts without hesitation, who abandons what no longer serves him, who shifts his posture the moment the world tilts, becomes immune to the chaos that destroys others. Adaptation is not compromise, it is evolution, and in the realm of power, evolution is the only shield that does not shatter. Rule 20 rises from the darkest part of human conflict. Victory belongs to the one who strikes without hesitation when the decisive moment arrives. Many recognize opportunity yet fail to act. Fear restrains them, morality softens them, overthinking delays them, sentiment blinds them. The moment passes, the advantage dissolves, and the cost of hesitation becomes irreversible. The strategist does not strike constantly, he strikes precisely. He waits for the fracture in the enemy's defense, for the lapse in judgment, for the quiet moment when resistance is weakest. When that moment appears, he acts with finality. Victory is rarely a matter of strength, it is a matter of decisiveness, and in the final contest, hesitation is the true enemy, for it turns potential triumph into certain defeat. Rule 21 stands above all others, casting its shadow across kingdoms, alliances, friendships, and legacies. Those who understand the power of their absence rule longer than those who rely on their presence. Presence creates familiarity. Familiarity creates entitlement. Entitlement erodes authority. But absence creates scarcity, and scarcity transforms even a flawed figure into a symbol. When the strategist withdraws, his value expands. His silence becomes weightier than speeches. His distance becomes a mystery that others project meaning onto. His restraint forces the world to remember him not as he is, but as the mind chooses to imagine him. Legacies are not built by constant visibility, but by strategic disappearance, allowing myth to grow where fact ends. The most powerful figures in history understood that presence governs the moment, but absence governs eternity. These final rules reveal themselves with brutal precision in the stories of those who rise and fall. Leaders collapse not because they lacked brilliance, but because they clung too tightly to identities that no longer fit the world evolving around them. Rivals lose power not because they lacked strength, but because they hesitated at the threshold of decisive action. And many who tasted influence lose everything because they believed their presence was indispensable, failing to see that stepping away would have preserved authority far more effectively than clinging to it desperately. Survival, victory, and legacy intertwine in the strategist's mind, like threads of a single tapestry. Adaptation ensures continuation. Decisiveness ensures conquest. Absence ensures remembrance. These forces shape the rise and fall of individuals just as they shape the fate of empires. The strategist who understands them moves differently, speaks differently, fights differently. He does not panic when circumstances shift, he transforms. He does not hesitate when the moment arrives, he ends the conflict cleanly. He does not chase recognition, he engineers silence into myth. And while the world judges success through loud victories and public displays, the strategist recognizes that the greatest triumphs are often invisible. The disaster that was avoided, the enemy who never realized he lost, the danger that dissolved because adaptation reshaped the battlefield, the rival who fell because decisiveness arrived a second earlier than his own, the legacy that grew because absence created a legend where simple presence would have revealed only a mortal. The final stage of the strategist's journey is not glory, but clarity. The awareness that human behavior is governed by rules older than morality, older than civilization, older than language. Instinct shapes the heart, fear shapes the mind, loyalty shifts with incentive, betrayal blooms under the right conditions, power flows through perception, strategy moves through timing, influence emerges through presence, and survival crowns the one who adapts, strikes, and vanishes at will. From the first rule to the last, a pattern emerges. Control belongs not to the loud, the emotional, the sentimental, or the impulsive, but to the one who reads human nature without illusion and shapes it without hesitation. And as the final rule settles over the world like a quiet storm, an undeniable truth reveals itself, one that has guided every strategist who ever bent the chaos of humanity into order. Because the one who understands these 21 rules does not merely survive the world, he outlives it. And the world, whether it admits it or not, moves around him long after his footsteps fade. If you've made it this far, it's because a part of you already knows this truth. Human behavior isn't random, it's predictable. It follows laws older than morality, older than society, older than the self. Those who deny these rules are controlled by them. Those who study them become untouchable. Now tell me in the comments, are you ready to see people as they are, not as you wish they were? Are you willing to understand the laws that shape every desire, every betrayal, every move? If this message touched you, if it made sense, write in the comments, I see the rules. Let's see how many here are truly ready to live with their eyes open. And don't forget, keep watching the next video. It's important, much more than you imagine. See you there.